Are you in the middle of an empty nest syndrome right now, suffering a little bit because your last child has up and flown the coop? Are you suffering from menopause or perimenopause at the same time? I have my daughter Colleen here today with me, who is 48, going through it all. Colleen sent me a text over the weekend with a little picture, and she said, I am so missing these sweet little faces today. She's going to talk about her experiences. Plus, she is a therapist, so has some good advice on this. So if this is a subject that interests you, and I think perhaps everyone goes through this at some time or another, stay tuned. I think you'll enjoy this. Your head on my shoulder. So Colleen is here to talk a little bit about her experience with empty nest syndrome. Now, mind you that Colleen is 47?
48.
48. She is also, you tell your whole story, what you're going through right now at 48.
Well, 3 kids in college this year. This is the 1 year where they're all in college together, freshman, junior, and senior year. So our oldest, Ryan, is 22, and she's graduating college in 2 months. And Micah and I were just saying, it seems like yesterday we were moving her into the dorms freshman year. And how in the heck have we gotten here so quickly? And now into the phase of life after graduation and trying to get her a big girl job and that whole next phase that has just come so quickly. So,
well, let me just interject. This isn't this might be your normal your life. Colleen and Micah have a wonderful life together. First of all, they have the most beautiful marriage, and Musi and I admire that. They're so in love, and they
25 years.
Spend so much time together and do everything together. They've done wonderful trips with the children, and their life has been with the children. They have not been absent parents. And so...
And with their grandparents, you and Musi, which has made our marriage better because we were able to leave the kids with Nans and Moose and feel wonderful about their lives being enriched while we were gone. So that has made a huge impact on their lives.
Plus all the trips you've taken them on. You've been to Europe together. So they've retained a very close family relationship, not only for themselves, but the kids love being with them. All those 10 years of the RV camping trips, too. Those were their favorites, weren't they?
Up to the Redwoods. Yeah. As a matter of fact, do you know Ryan wants to get married in the Redwoods?
Does she
Under
really?
the Redwoods, they have this venue up there where you can get married under the string lights under the redwood trees. And oh gosh, I've seen pictures. It looks magical. But she has such a connection to that family time together from, we did it, I think 11 or 12 years in a row.
You did.
And so they really just have that holds a special place in all of our hearts.
So what's going on, kiddo, with you now? Get down here further. My head's too big.
Well, empty nest is no joke. It's a real thing.
By the way, Colleen is a family therapist, right?
Yeah, mental health therapist.
So she probably do you deal with a lot of women going through this?
I have, actually I don't have any clients going through this, believe it or not. The adults I deal with is more like parenting skills and helping to reconnect with their wayward teens and that kind of thing, or their teens who are struggling. So.
And you deal with the teens a lot.
The teens, yeah. They're my people. But it's the whole dynamic of the house is what has changed so much. Just the 3 bedrooms sitting there empty, and they still smell like them, and it's so sad. At night, I miss just having them there. I have nobody to make dinner for, and it's a whole new life that Micah and I have now, which is, it's not a bad thing.
You have a lovely life, but it's missing that element. Yeah.
And I think this stage is so under what's
rated or estimated.
Yeah, underestimated.
Undervalued.
How hard it is, and how it is a whole different stage of life that nobody really touches on.
And especially at your age. Now, the difference here is when I went through empty nest syndrome, I was 55, 56 years old because I had children for a long time. Mikey and Colleen came along 10 years after the other four. And so I was so lucky to have them. And I was so bad. You were so wonderful to me. When she left to go to college, I was a pain in the neck. I was calling her all the time and everything.
Oh, it was great.
You gave me so much time.
But it was because we were connected at the hip, you know.
I know.
There might have been a little codependency there, but we worked through those issues. And now we live together. So
Yeah, but look at that, right? Isn't that great?
Do you know, I think I've mentioned this before. I've only not lived with you for 7 years of my 48 years. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, that was when you were in college and
and
first
then
married to Micah.
Montana,
Right.
Miami, Glendale.
With Micah.
And then 1 year, with Micah.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that weird? So I actually
how many people
am very
can
lucky.
say that?
Yeah. Now at the same time, we're dealing with Moosey, and as you know, he is so lonely for Brendo, who's a wonderful, and Brendo is so good to him to give him time.
Brendan adores him.
It's such a cute relationship. And, you know, he's also built quite a relationship with Dane, with Aiden, a couple of our grandsons, and, of course, Molly. Now, he also misses babies. So what he's going through, and I do call it empty nest syndrome with Moosey right now, because he's going through wanting all the time to see grandchildren or great-grandchildren.
Well, his birthday's coming up. We should make sure everybody do cookies or something again.
Well, if we did that, that's great. But it's hard having those special times. Like Molly has invited us over again for a garden visit. They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Because the big group is kind of chaotic. You don't get that special one.
Now, how are you dealing with your, what is it, perimenopause with you now or what?
Perimenopause, yeah. Which is, they're just doing so much research on it. There are so many symptoms out there that so many women go through. I've had, a few symptoms here and there, but not as severe as I've read about a lot of women go through. There's so many crazy things. Frozen shoulder.
Really?
And
thank God I never went through any of that.
And heart palpitations and hair loss and sleep interruption and just the list goes on. But thankfully there are so many resources with social media now that you can educate yourself a little bit, and the supplements to take, or if it's severe enough you can take your anyway. But
you don't have any of the anxiety or
no, thankfully I don't. Just sleep interruption's been probably my biggest one, because I used to sleep like the dead, and now it's weird. I kind of wake up and I don't know if that's a getting older thing or if that's a perimenopausal thing.
And the little dreams about, which I've had a lot of my life, like you were just telling us outside when we were just outside with Moosey, how she has these crazy dreams of being a mom again with little babies, and she loses them. Or
Three dreams in the past month. I've lost our youngest, Shannon. One was in a grocery store, and I was frantic and woke up just sweating. That was probably perimenopause too. And then like a week later, I had a dream where I lost
our camera just died. Oopsie. But we fixed it. So, but Colleen was right in the middle of such an interesting subject, the dreams.
Yeah, I was talking about the dreams and how I lost Shannon 3 different times, and then the third time was just a couple days ago, where I was in some European city, running up and down hills, and I couldn't find her, and so I don't know what that's all about, if that has to do with the empty nest thing or me just worrying. But in the dreams, she's always her 4-year-old self. It's not her 18-year-old self.
How many of you,
analyze that,
my friends, have any of these phenomena happen to you with empty nest or perimenopause or menopause? We'd love to hear from you. And I thank Colleen so much for doing this. They just came back from a walk with Duncan. And
I highly recommend for empty nesters to get a puppy.
And 3 hens.
And 3 hens. So we thank God for the hens. But the puppy, he's brought, the house has just been so quiet, and he's brought so much laughter and joy, and Micah and I have someone to dote on constantly. I swear this dog is like the most spoiled. We're treating it like a little human.
Well, you've been through a lot of baby stuff. A couple of weeks ago, you said, I don't know if I can continue this. They were getting up 2 or 3 times a night to take the dog outside and train him, which...
And then the teething and all the biting. Anyone who's had a puppy knows. But he's 4 months now, so he's just coming out of a lot of that. And he's sleeping now, thank God, because at one point, Mike and I were like, I don't know if we're ever going to do this again.
Well, the other point is that you're young enough with these young kids to not have any grandchildren. Do you know, as I think about it, when I went through my empty nest syndrome with you, I already had how many grandchildren at that point? I had Bridget and Billy and Jenny and who else? Billy's Dubby had several kids.
I think all Margie's.
All Margie's. Well, you know, you were
yes, they
8.
were, because they were all at our wedding.
So in a way, I still had grandkids, but then I had that thing where we moved out of our big family house and we went to Vegas, and I missed the whole family. So I had we all
life stages, but we get through them.
We do,
and the resiliency is key.
And another time, maybe Colleen can talk about how to get over this or handle it. I don't even know if you ever get over it, but the severity of it does lessen, right?
Absolutely. It was hardest when our oldest left. That was...
Oh, was that the hardest?
I was the hardest, because it was all of a sudden it went from me having all 3 of my kids under one roof to just this hole. And I said it felt like there was this, 18-year-old hole in my heart.
Oh.
That was hard. And then Brendan, and then... But she was still local. And then Brendan moving out of state, the second one.
That was hard.
That was hard in a different way.
And they say, too, that you have a lot of worries when your children go away. When you went away to college, my big thing was, did I teach her everything that I'm supposed to? Oh, my gosh, I didn't teach her how to sew. What am I going to do?
And each one, there's a different set of worries, right? Like this morning at 8:30, we got a call from our oldest who had her phone stolen last night.
Oh, Ryan.
Yeah, so she was out having fun for St. Patrick's Day, and that kind of stuff happens. And
so you're still helping the kids take care of their problems. That's
always.
But that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So we're still needed in some ways.
So another time we can talk about ways to lessen the sadness. And I know a lot of women will say, "Oh, forget about it. Let them go." There's different types of families.
Keep them close. Don't let them go.
I say keep them close too.
Let them go and grow and fall and make their own mistakes, of course. But I mean, there isn't a day goes by that goes by that I'm not talking to at least one of them.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much, and enjoy your day.
And ladies, if you want to follow Duncan's Instagram, our puppy, he's only on Instagram. I don't know if you do Instagram, but
oh, that's right. And what's it under? Just Duncan?
Duncan's Golden World.
Wow.
Not like Dunkin' Donut. Duncan like the Scottish name.
Great. Not Irish?
No, Micah's Scottish.
Oh, that's right.
Scottish ancestry.
That's right.
So,
good.
I know.
Well, thank you so much. Love you tons.
Love you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye, ladies.
I've touched on this subject a bit before in one of my other videos, perhaps a year ago, and I talked to you about my personal experiences of going through the empty nest syndrome with Colleen, who is the youngest of our 6 children. Now that I think of it, I probably went through the same syndrome or phenomenon, the psychological thing, with every child, as each child went off, starting with Billy, our oldest, who was married young at 20. And then Debbie went off to college. And then it was Matthew. And then Matthew went back to Massachusetts. And it was such an interesting feeling, something that happened each and every time. And it's hard to explain exactly what happened. Now, my age group, When I first went through empty nest syndrome when Billy was young, I was in my early 40s when Billy left and was married. And the same with Dub. We had our first four children all in our 20s. And I was married at 22 and a half. So I was young going through those. Then we were living in Scotland, and when we came home, we had two more children, Mikey and Colleen. So they were about 9 years younger than the first four. So in a way, my empty nest syndrome was separated. But by the time our last child, Colleen, left and went off to college, I had a bunch of grandkids. So it was strange, but I still suffered. And I was a pain in the neck with Colleen, constantly calling and wanting to meet her for lunch or this or that. She was wonderful with me, but I handled it, and things eventually slowed down. Now, at that point, I was probably in my mid 50s or beyond. So it was a different type of feeling at that point. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about the things that happen to a woman at the same time, perhaps, that they might be going through this. And Colleen is an example of being a young mother whose three children are off in college. And she just looks forward to those times when they're home all together. And they've had a wonderful life. They've had a very child-centered life. They went on RV trips every single summer for 10 or 11 years. And most of the kids look back on those trips as some of their favorites. They've been to Europe together as a family. They've been to the Bahamas. So they've been to a lot of things together, but they've also been able to take trips alone. So they've led the two types of life. So in a way, they've experienced time alone and time together. They always love their weekends. Micah is a big barbecuer. In fact, he built a beautiful pizza oven. And Colleen talks about empty house. As far as Moosey's and my life together, it has always been child-centered. As a little girl of even before I was 5 years old, I always knew that I wanted a big family, lots of children, and that I wanted to be a teacher. And I know that's strange. Most kids, by the time they get out of college, don't know what they want to do. But I did, and it always centered around the white picket fence house and family and children. And I was very blessed to have achieved all that by marrying someone who was definitely in favor of having big families, and of course, being able to have and raise all these children. Now, we were also in a position to be able to do some wonderful things with the family as we raised them. We moved around quite a bit. We lived in Scotland for several years when the first four children were younger, and they spent their first 3 or 4 years in school together in Scotland. They became little Scots. Their accents became Scottish. And by the time we left to come home, my mother and father didn't even recognize the way they spoke. They had these Glaswegian accents that were definitely something that they had to lose when they got in school. People weren't understanding them back in the United States. But the traveling, the fun, at one point, we were able to purchase a home in Palm Springs. So we had that for about 10 years, and family was always going out. We did encourage kids to bring friends if they wanted to. So we had a lot of together fun of being in vacation type mode. And that was always together as a family. After that, we bought a house up in Big Bear, and we had that for over 10 years. And the fun that we had up there as a family, always going up, lots of kids, lots of friends. We had a boat. We owned this home that was right on the water in Big Bear. So our life was always a fun life with children. And as our family grew with grandchildren and great grandchildren, we just loved it. Now, now Moosey and I are here in a little cottage. We happen to live on Colleen and Micah's property. In fact, she mentioned something like this, how she realized one day that she has always lived with or nearby us. And gosh, we're so grateful for that too. But her children grew up with us here. So we feel the same about her children. And when they're gone, we as grandparents even have a little empty nest syndrome going here. Now, as far as Moosey goes, he misses the kids when they're gone. As a matter of fact, part of his well being centers on fairly regularly seeing great grandchildren or grandchildren. And I thoroughly go along with that. Now, I, on the other hand, miss everyone. I miss family times. The memories are great. The big parties and things are not, for some reason or other, they're just not in our life anymore, mainly because, as you know, it's more of a simple life when you get into your mid-80s. But today, a lot of the memories, and we're going back in time, and fortunately, we can remember all those wonderful times too. Moosey just reminded me of another form of empty nest syndrome that entered into our life too. When we were married back in 1960, Moosey was in the Army at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And I was the oldest in my family. I had two brothers, and I was very, very close to my mother and father. We lived in New Jersey, and they were a big, big part of my life. Even when I went off to college, I was only an hour away from home, and I did come home on weekends fairly often throughout the year. I would bring my friends home with me. So, mom and dad were definitely a big part of my life. Now, as Moosey just reminded me, in a way, we forced my mom and dad into an empty nest syndrome. I have to tell you, I was the apple of my mom and dad's eye. Hunchy Bunchy, my dad called me. Very, very close to both of them. Moosey had 10 days for our honeymoon in Cape Cod. And after that, we went back, packed up the car, and I was gone. And I lived with my hubby down in Fort Knox for almost 3 years. We were extended during the Cuban crisis, I believe, the Cuban Missile Crisis. And we were due to get out, and 3 or 4 days before we were supposed to be released, we were extended and just unpacked and stayed there for almost another year. I did get to see them a few times during each year. We would drive all the way home. And during that time, we did have our first son. Now, my mother did come down once. It was prop jet time during that time. And she came down with my brother Tommy, who at the time I think was about 10 or 11. And so we did have a visit with mom down there. But I think back on how my mother must have felt when I just left. Now, not only that, but after we were married for several years, we went off to Scotland, and we were there for 3 years. And I remember waving goodbye to my parents on the dock from the ship as the ship pulled out of New York, and knew that we probably wouldn't see them for at least a year. I can imagine my mother, especially my mother, my father too. He was a little more stoic, but my dad and I could have some cries together too. How awful that must have been for them to wave goodbye, knowing that we wouldn't see them for a while. Now, we did try to get them to come to Scotland, but they were older, and it just wasn't feasible. A year later, we did have a 6-week leave, which was wonderful. We did go home, rented a big house down at the Jersey Shore, and had them come and visit us. So that was wonderful. But those years were hard. Then we came home, lived there for a year, back east again, and off we went to California. Now, my mother and father did come out every year. Moosey promised that he would bring them out, and they would stay with us for a month, maybe 6 weeks. And there were times when we would go back and visit too. So, but generally speaking, we were not there full time for my parents. And I often think about that. I missed them. I know they missed us terribly, especially the kids. But they had my brothers, but I was the only daughter, and I often think about that. Good. So I hope you enjoy this little collaboration on the subject of empty nest. And speaking of empty nest, I am following the Big Bear Eagles, the pair of eagles who have recently birthed 3 babies. I think in the last, there are, in fact, they have a website that they've been showing the progress. And it's been snowing up in Big Bear. They had quite a bad storm last week. They might have lost one of their little babies, but there were 3 of them. It was kind of hard. You know, they have that camera set up in the nest to just record every moment. And with the snow and everything, it was a little hard to see, but I think they did discover that perhaps one of the babies had gone. But that's where we get the empty nest syndrome from, I guess, when the babies all fly off and the mama doesn't have any more babies in her nest to take care of. They're off on their own. Also in this video, I happened to be outside with my camera when Micah and Colleen came home from one of their walks this morning with their new puppy, Duncan. I've showed you pictures of Duncan as a brand new puppy at 6 weeks, and he is now 4 months, Moosey? Is that how old he is now?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's 4 months old, and he's gotten tall and slimmer, and they're training him beautifully. He responds to certain signals now, and he was outside visiting with us, and I did take some videos of him outside. So you'll get to see Duncan too.
I think he just noticed.
Oh, he did. He saw Shamu. What a lovely doggy you are.
You haven't seen Shamu yet.
If it's a phone conversation, obviously not, but we'll see how it goes.
Let's see if yeah. Oh, yes. What a beauty you are. Let's see if Shamu hisses at him. Do you think, you'll be holding him? He seems to be staying away, right? Right over there, look. Look at Shamu.
But Bill's
It's all right.
humility and,
It's
Bill
all
just
right.
comes from such a great place. He's a wonderful mentor.
Oh, she turned
And
away,
he's
so
highly respected
it's okay.
in the sports community.
It's all right, Shamu.
Yes. And you want to go see Shamu?
Well, we're no, not
Who's
at this
that?
point. No.
Duncan, sit. Sit.
He's excited to see
Oh,
us.
what a good dog. Good dog. Aw. Give Moosey a kiss.
He's over it now.
The feelings don't last in that severe form. I've watched videos where poor mothers just sit and cry their eyes out. And sometimes, as Colleen mentions, there are physical symptoms involved with this too. Fortunately, I've never had that. But the yearning is always there for the back in the day life. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Memories and nostalgia to me are wonderful. And a lot of times, Moosey and I will spend hours just looking at old pictures, old movies, and it doesn't make us sad. It just brings us back good memories, maybe a tinge here and there of wanting to do it all over again. So those of you who have young families still, my advice is to enjoy every moment you can because it goes in a flash. I just can't believe how fast those years of raising children went. So we will see you soon again. I thank Colleen so much for being here and being able to contribute to this subject. I know you've all wanted to see her again. For those of you who have not subscribed yet, if you're enjoying this content, I know that our channel is a wide niche of doing a lot of different things. It's not just fashion or hair or makeup. It's gardening and cooking and just enjoying these golden years, living a simple life and getting through the ups and downs of aging. It's definitely a pro-aging channel. Bye for now, my friends. I appreciate you being here. Love you, and God bless us all.